Microscopic Lust. Chapter 22. The next day, Helena did exactly what she promised Octava. She got up early in the morning before her stepsister got up. She went back to her room and took a shower. She had breakfast. Helena is getting ready for work. She said goodbye to her father and stepmother, while Octava also does the same thing. She focuses on herself. She tried to treat the wounds inflicted by Tony and Luna. She healed herself from a broken heart. She studied more often than usual. She tried to be kinder to Mr. Gores and her mother. She doesn't cause any problems. Sometimes if she can't stand her feelings, Octava will stand in front of Helena's room, and she will listen to Helena's voice on the phone with Ursula. Helena and Octava only met at dinner. Helena would talk more to Amanda, while Mr. Gores would talk more to Octava. Everything happened lightly. The two stepsisters tried not to make eye contact. They don't want the monster within them to wake up again and ruin everything. And so, until 2 weeks pass. Perhaps this is the only way to know if their feelings are real or just momentary emotions. Ursula herself had an easier life. She lives alone. She keeps herself busy with homework, college certification and preparations for retirement from her job as a lecturer. Yes, certification and preparation for early retirement are two opposite things. Ursula wants to leave campus in good shape. Ursula finally decided to accept her father's offer and went into the family business. Ursula hadn't told Helena about this plan. Octava's words before leaving her house made her very sad. Is that what people think about her relationship with Helena? That she wanted Helena's money? No! Now, for the first time, Ursula wanted people to know who she was. She didn't want people to underestimate her. That morning Octava arrived on campus with a happy heart. Gores bought her a new black car in the name of his stepdaughter. Even though Amanda seemed to object to her husband's overspending, she couldn't say anything. She could only threaten Octava not to crash the car because of her carelessness. Gores says Octava shouldn't crash anything because of her safety. While money can still be found. As for the matter of her feeling, Octava is sure that she has started to get used to the relationship between Tony and Luna. However, feelings are not something that can be forced. Octava doesn't want Tony and Luna's relationship to be bad because of rumors made by her classmates. She wasn't comfortable with the way other students commented on her ex-friend. So, to avoid talking about Tony and Luna, Octava spent more time in the library and designing her final project. Several times on her way to the library, Octava ran into Ursula. Usually, they just exchanged smiles. There was nothing else because Octava had already passed the courses taught by Ursula. That afternoon while Octava was taking notes in the library, Tony suddenly sat down next to her. "What are you doing here, Tony?" asked Octava as Tony sat down and just looked at her without saying anything. "I broke up with Luna," Tony answered in a whisper. "Then what do you want? Do you still like me? I cannot forget you." "Tony, stop your bullshit. If you liked me, you wouldn't have cheated on me from the start." Octava judged Tony coldly. She doesn't have time for love. Especially her relationship with this man. She doesn't know where her sympathy for Tony was a month ago. Everything yawned when she saw Luna in his room that day. "So, you don't like me anymore? Why? Because you have a secret with Miss Ursula?" "What do you mean, Tony?" asked Octava angrily. "SSSSTTT. At the same time, everyone hissed because Octava's voice was too loud. "We are trying to learn here, my friend. If you guys want to date, just find a room," said one of the students, pushing away his slumped glasses. Tony grins while scratching his head. Then, he returned to Octava. "Miss Ursula looked for you in my apartment. Don't you know? It turns out she had dreadlocks." Tony hissed in disgust. "Is Miss Ursula a same-sex lover?" Octava looked at Tony in disbelief. "Watch your words, Tony. You can get in trouble for that. She has to maintain her attitude. She can't mislead her student like she did to you. This has nothing to do with how Miss Ursula lives her life out there," whispered Octava. "Go on, Tony. Mind your own business. And don't bother me." Tony snorted, then left Octava alone. Octava lost her concentration. Now, she was worried about Ursula. All this is because of Octava's childish attitude. If she could have calmed down and didn't run away from home for 2 days at that time, this problem wouldn't exist. Now, what can she do to help clear Ursula's name? Octava massaged her head that's suddenly dizzy. Knowing that her attitude would get her professor into trouble, Octava decided to send a message to Ursula. The woman had to know what was going on among the students. However, before Octava could type anything, Ursula had already called her. Octava quickly answered the phone. "Come to my office. There are some things I want to talk about my course." Ursula called Octava from her office. Octava's heart immediately jumped. Was it possible that Ursula had heard of this? What will Octava do now? Okay. Octava hung up. She picked up her bag and walked alone to Ursula's room. As soon as she arrived, Octava immediately knocked on the door of Ursula's room. "Come in." Without waiting long, Ursula herself opened it. Octava came in, closing the door to the room quietly. "Are you looking for me?" asked Octava. Her heart hadn't calmed down yet. And the smell of vanilla in this room made Octava nervous. Ursula hasn't said anything yet. She approached Octava. She folded her arms across her chest. "Miss Ursula." Octava was frightened. She didn't know what the name of this feeling was. "How can you live this way, Octava? Don't you ever think of me at all?" Ursula asked. "Can Helena replace me and win you over?" Octava's eyes suddenly felt sore. She looked at Ursula. Her lips trembled as what Ursula said miraculously hurt her feelings. "How dare you say that, Miss Ursula? How dare you decide how I should feel?" Octava whispered. Her body shivered from holding back. She can't be here. She couldn't just give up. Then Octava approached Ursula. She kissed the teacher's cheek hesitantly. Then she looked into Ursula's brown eyes one more time. "Stop accusing me like that." Octava pulled Ursula's waist closer to her. In an instant, their buttons were open. Their skirts are up to their thighs. Their lips were busy pulling each other. "I knew you wouldn't be able to hurt Helena," Octava spoke quietly. She was afraid of hurting herself. "I don't want any of you. I want you to be happy." "That's enough. Already." Ursula brushed her breath into Octava's ear. Then her hand slid down the girl's back. At the same time, loudspeaker tubes buzzed around them and burst the air bubbles that enveloped them in the room. "Calling for Ursula Draw and Octava Telaga." The sentence was echoed out loud 3 times. Another sentence followed, "Please come to the third dean's assistant room, now." They both choked on the spot. While still looking at each other, Octava and Ursula quickly straightened their clothes. A bad premonition landed there. Someone must have seen what happened. Someone must have reported them. "Tony," Octava muttered as she left the office with Ursula. Outside the room, other students were standing watching them. There are a lot of them. Tony and Luna were there too. Microscopic Lust. Chapter 23. "What you did, Ursula, was far from a commendable act," the man said while pacing. The third deputy dean had previously explained every chapter of university law to Ursula. Now the tall, skinny man had repeated the disappointed sentences 6 times. Ursula has been harassing her female student. While Octava, they put her in the victim position. Because the girl is only a student, there is evidence that Ursula invited her into her office. This is Ursula's idea. Octava is just a scared college student. Then the exploitation happened. You are supposed to protect the students here. Geez, we're so ashamed of you. Vice Dean 3 then sat down. His broad forehead glistened with sweat. The calories he expends while pacing and nagging seemed to have matched cardio training. Octava, dumbfounded like watching a badminton match because she didn't have the chance to explain or entertain Ursula, finally raised her hand. "Excuse me, sir, can I call my guardian now?" They had let Octava sit next to Ursula. But they were too focused on Ursula. Octava doesn't get attention. Yes. You can call your guardian to come," said the third assistant of Dean. Then, he sprayed Ursula with bad words again. In a moment, there was a knock on the door. The dean's secretary appeared at the end of the gap in the door with a flat face. "The dean wants to meet with you, sir, now." The assistant dean immediately wiped his forehead with a tissue. Before leaving, he looked at Ursula intently. "Look, Ursula, now he's going to fire you," he threatened. After that, he left the room. Octava immediately turned to Ursula. "They're going to fire you, aren't they?" Octava did not know that what she did would have such severe consequences. Especially for Ursula's side. Ursula could still laugh. "I'm not afraid of that one. What I'm worried about is who you called to come here. Helena can't know about this. I couldn't have summoned my mother here. She will delete my name from her M-banking list." Octava looked down. What did she think when she called Helena? What could Helena possibly do to them? The thought of Helena being angry made Octava cringe. Ursula withered where she sat. "I thought so," she moaned as she removed her wig. "As expected, you would call her. Don't worry, I will explain to Helena." Octava touched her palm to Ursula. "She might be mad at you. But she won't leave you." Octava cheered even though she couldn't give a guarantee. Ursula just raised her eyebrows. She silently watched Octava's fingers stroked into her skirt. It turns out that they haven't given up either. On the other side of the campus, Helena was running fast. When she found the assistant dean's office, she went straight in without knocking. And the woman found Ursula and Octava. "You're going too far," said Helena. "Isn't there anything else you can do without causing trouble? If you can't hold back your desire, look for a hotel or room." "Why even on campus? You know I have to lie. I can't leave the office without telling the old man Gorse." "Now I have to think of a good reason," Helena grumbled as if she had no pause. "They are going to fire Ursula, please do something," Octava whined. She forgot that her hand was still inside Ursula's skirt. Incidentally, Helena had seen it earlier. Her jaw hardened. She was pissed off to death. Before Helena exploded, the owner of the room returned. "Mrs. Gorse, you have come. I want to congratulate you on your recent marriage." He immediately greeted Helena. Helena faced the man with a haughty look in her eyes, her green eyes gleaming. She lowered her voice. "I'm Helena Gorse, Octava's half-sister." "Oh, pardon my impudence. It's my fault I didn't get to go to Mr. Gorse's wedding. This guy is stupid but very arrogant." "So how is it?" insisted Helena impatiently. "Are you going to punish my sister?" Helena asked. She looked around at the third assistant in Dean's room. Knowing that the Gores were a fairly well-known family, and Octava was now a part of it, the assistant dean was silent. He wouldn't dare punish Octava. Helena will cause trouble for him, thanks to Ursula. Regarding this misunderstanding, we are well aware that Octava is just a victim. So instead of punishing her, we will revoke Ursula's official letter and issue it in the process of twice working hours. So, it's not a problem anymore, right? Helena stepped out. Before she disappeared from the door, she looked back. I'm sure this campus won't allow this kind of disgrace to spread out. Ursula should retire early, is that right, sir? Helen gave the man and Ursula a threatening look. However, she still racked her brains to protect her lover. At least Ursula could get some retirement money before she was kicked out. As if she was honorably dismissed. Of course, Miss Helena. Thank you very much, sir. I am very happy with the way this campus solves problems wisely. Octava, let's go home. The obedient Octava got up from her seat, following Helen off campus. In contrast, Ursula left there to be scolded once again. Where are your car keys? Helena raised her hand to Octava. A frightened Octava handed over the key. Without another word, Helena snatched the key. They walked to the parking lot. Octava waited for Helena to open the door for her. Well, now explain what happened earlier to me, Helena ordered when the two were already in the car. Octava didn't have the heart to tell it herself. So, she chose to tell the rumors that were going on among the students so that Helena would feel sorry for Ursula. Then, just because of that you and Ursula were summoned? Asked Helena, who had not found Ursula's fault. Octava shook her head. Ursula then called me to her room. Then it happened. Then, Helena continued, snapping her fingers. It happened. Just like that? Octava, I can't help but think. You told me you wanted to be alone. You said that you didn't want to be the third person. You are not gay. You're normal. The relationship I had with Ursula was wrong. But you seduced my lover until she lost her job. Now Helena knows that Octava is the bad girl here. Octava wants to answer all of Helena's accusations. But her mouth just twitched like a fish out of oxygen. She didn't have an answer. That's enough. You don't need to answer my words if they're all true. Helena started the car and drove off campus. Why are we here? Octava realized that Helena's path was not the way back to the Gorse family, but Ursula's house. Because I can't take you home now. The three of us should finish our business as well. Helena looked sharply ahead. She looks focused. No one knew that the thought of losing her lover and Octava was haunting her heart.